Hi everybody, Joe Brancato, the airgun scientist here in the Skunk Works lab. We got a great video for you today. Easily explaining scope features, MOA versus
MRAD,
and first focal plane or FFP versus second focal plane or SFP. For this discussion, I'll be using first and second focal plane terms. I won't use the SFP, FFP, too confusing. So I'm going to make this video extremely easy to understand with no math involved. So first, let's talk about MOA versus MRAD. Let's go over to the 3D BB over here. Technically, MOA and mil dots, or MRADs, are measurements of an angle. But when we use them for rifle scopes, we really want to know like how many inches at 100 yards it means, okay? So let's do the MOA first. An MOA, or minute of angle, is approximately 1 inch at 100 yards. So let's do our little 3D BB over here. And if we were to draw a line, let's say, we'll measure something like at 100 yards, and we'll say, here's our 100 yards. And I'm exaggerating it so that you can see it easier, because an MOA is, here's the math part, but you don't need to know this. It's 1 inch at 100 yards. Technically, it's really pi divided by 3, which is 1.04 approximately. Good enough for government work. It's an inch at 100 yards. But it's roughly an inch at 100 yards. And it's not even roughly. Like I said, 1.04, that's close enough. That would be the angle, which is also the height. Now that also means, well, a little tough to do this, so give me a break, guys and gals. Here we go. There's our angle, okay? So that could be 1 inch at 100 yards, 2 inch at 200 yards, or 3 inches at 300 yards. It's about as much math as you need to know. 1 at 100, 2 at 200, 3 at 300. That's an MOA, minute of angle. If you want to get technical, it's 1/60th, which is a minute of a degree. There's 360 degrees in a circle, and there's 60 minutes, just like 60 minutes in an hour, there's 60 minutes in a degree. So it's 360 divided by 60, or it's a small fraction, okay? So that's the MOA. Now, what's the MRAD, or the millirad, or the anything other than MOA, okay, is going to be a millirad. MRAD, mil dot, okay? It'll have the word either MRAD, mil dot, or millirad, or something in there. Now, think about it. This isn't hard, but you've heard of a millimeter, okay? That's 1 in 1,000. Milli means 1 in 1,000. Well, that's exactly what an MRAD, or a millirad, is. We're going to show you there. Now, instead of 1 inch at 100 yards for the MOA, we're going to go out to 1,000 yards. Okay? That's a little tough to do this. I hope you guys can see this. There's our 1,000-yard shot. And we're going to go up 1 yard. Okay? So in 1,000 yards, this, by the way, we'll call this 100, 200, 300, and this will be 3 inches, 2 inches, and we'll make that 1 inch. Okay. With the mil dot, it's 1 in 1,000 yards. Okay, but what's the distance at 1,000 yards? It's 1 yard. So it's 1 in 1,000. So this is 1 yard. 1 yard in 1,000 yards. Now, I'll tell you the hard part, and then I'll make it easy for you. A millirad is 3.6 inches at 100 yards, which never made any sense to me. I'm going to make it so easy for you to remember that. Now you'll be like, oh, okay, that's easy to remember. Teach a man how to fish. 1 yard at 1,000 yards. Well, we all know, or should know, a yard is 36 inches, okay? We haven't gone metric yet. I know. That's my soapbox. So that's 36 inches at 1,000 yards. But pellet guns And a lot of rifles don't usually shoot past 100, 200 yards. So what do? We tenthify everything, or make it 1/10. Instead of 1,000 yards, put the decimal point here, or just get rid of that 0. Move a decimal point over from here. Instead of 36 inches, it's 3.6 inches. Now, that is what a MRAD, MRAD, whatever you want to call it, anything but an MOA, is 3.6 inches at 100 yards. That's where that crazy number comes from that I could never figure out. Why was it always 3.6? It's because it's 1 in 1,000. Now, this could just as easily be 1,000 meters in 1 meter, which would be 100 meters and 10 centimeters. It's all of 1 in 1,000. So if you're from one of the countries that uses metric, the MRAD is way better, okay? Because it makes sense. It's 1 in 1,000. We can get away with both in the US because I can divide by 1,000 pretty easily, and it's roughly an inch at 100 yards. I can live with that too, okay? But for you guys that are using the metric system, the MRAD's awesome. You just divide by 1,000. So if it's 100 meters, it's a tenth of 100 meters is 10 meters. So, no, excuse me. If it was 100 meters, it'd be a tenth of a meter, or 10 centimeters. Yeah. So we'll put that down here. 10 centimeters at 100 meters. Okay? It's always 1,000th. So you got your 1 inch at 100, 2 inches at 200, 3 inches at 300, or you've got your 1 yard at 1,000 yards, 1 meter at 1,000 meters, etc. Let's go to the 3D BB and talk about first focal plane versus second focal plane. Now, second focal plane is what 99% of the scopes were out there at least years ago. They're becoming much more common now. Second focal plane is where you have a scope. Let's draw this like this. All right. And you have your reticle there like that. And let's put our mil dots or MOA, whatever they are here. Okay. And of course they'd be up here and here and here. Okay. But let's just worry about the vertical guys. So typically when we sight in a gun, we'll do something like this. Okay. When you shoot a pellet, it's just like throwing a baseball. When you throw a baseball from here to there, it doesn't go in a straight line like that. It goes in an arc, okay? Now, with rifles, that arc is not as pronounced, but it's still 100% there, okay? So in this diagram, this is the arc that the bullet or pellet travels. Now, your scope, for instance, the scope here, okay, is above the bore sight or the bore line of the rifle. So we're going to draw that as an eye. Here's my eye. That's your scope. And then this is your rifle. Now, this is extremely exaggerated so that you can see this, because if I drew it to scale, it wouldn't be so obvious. So your eye sees in a straight line. Okay, so let's do your eye in black. Just because we got the bullet in blue, we'll do the eye in black. Okay, and we're going to say by definition that we've sighted this gun in at 50 yards, which is a pretty good sight because what happens is at 50 yards, you've more or less reached the peak or apogee of your flight, and then from there on it starts to fall off. So this would be 50 yards right here. So that's 50. By definition, we've sighted this gun in at 50. It's dead on. And we have it at 12 power. It's getting a little tough to see this with black, guys. Sorry, I'm going to have to start switching colors. I wanted to use black for second focal plane and blue for, might not work out. Okay, so at 12 power, this is dead on. And actually at any power, it'll be dead on at 50. All right, because that's in the center. But as you notice, the pellet will shoot and start to fall down as it gets past 50. Okay, that makes sense. It just falls. Now, here's the things that a lot of people don't think. A lot of people have a little issue trying to get their head wrapped around it. They think that as you get closer, the pellet should get higher. Well, not past this point. As you get closer from 50, look what's happening. And this will be a good example of what we're going to show to you. The bore is down here. The bore is right here, right at that blue line, right there. I'm going to put it right there. But look where the scope is. It's above the bore. Okay? So as you start coming closer and closer to the bore, to you, the shooter, eventually, I don't care where this thing is sighted in, at 50 yards, 100 yards, 10 yards even, 1,000 yards, this is higher than that bore. Hence, you're going to, wherever the scope says, you're going to shoot below it. That's just a fact. If you have trouble, call me up. I'll explain it. But the bottom line is, at 0 yards, you're going to be about 2 inches, or whatever this distance is, from where you're aiming to where you're hitting. Okay? I don't care where that scope says I'm aiming, I'm going to hit right here. Okay? And you can change that scope all you want, you're still going to hit here. Okay? So that's the point we want to make. That's the part that I wanted to make sure that everyone understood. Okay, so we're 2 inches low at 0, we're dead on at 50, and we start dropping off again. So at 70 yards, we might be right here. Okay? This might be, and I'm going to make these numbers up just to make it easy. This might be 60, this might be 70, and this might be 90. Now, I'm making these numbers up. Don't be critical. Problem is, with a second focal plane, sorry, I said I wouldn't use SFP, but I am now. With the second focal plane, this only works at 12x. Because remember, when I make the picture bigger, okay, when I zoom into 24x, I see twice as big as a picture. Well, if I was going to say, let's say, at 70 yards, if I look at a groundhog, and I'm going to shoot the groundhog's head is right here, and his belly is right here, okay? And if I say, oh, well, if I shoot here, I'm going to hit him in the middle of the belly at 12x. So I can't see that too good. I'm going to make it 24x. So now you've got this picture, okay? But what happened was he got twice as big because you zoomed in. These are staying still. So now they don't tell you where you're going to hit. You have to readjust. You have to do math. Not fun, okay? Let's not do math. Let's show you what an FFP can do. Now, I said I wouldn't say FFP, but it looks better to write FFP versus 1FP. So FFP is for this side, and we're going to show to you the ease of using a first focal plane scope, okay? Now, or as I'd like to say, so, as you see, this is our scope, looking through it with that beautiful reticle in there, and it's got its hash marks, or these could be MOA, they could be MRAD. I don't care. In fact, before I even go into this, I'm going to show you another reason why I love a first focal plane scope. When I sight in a guy's, every rifle we sell with a scope, we sight it in for you guys and gals, okay? So let's say we want to hit here on the target. Same with you. You want to hit that target right there. And your bullet, first pellet comes out of the gun. It's right there, okay? You want to hit here, you're hitting here. Well, I look at that and I count 1, 2, 3 down, 1, 2 across, okay? So that's 2 by 3, all right? All I have to do is see these numbers here? If it's at 0, I go up 3. 1, 2, 3. Now that's not 3 clicks because MOAs will have 4 clicks per MOA, and an MRAD will have 10 clicks. You go up 3 numbers on the scale. It's written clearly, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You just go up 3 numbers. So if you're on 0, you go up to 3. If you're on 2, you go up to 5. That's as tough as math as you need to know. Oh, look, I'm shooting 3 low. I need to come up 3. Now today's daily challenge, I'm 2 to the right. What do you think you do? You go to your windage and you crank it 2 to the left. Simple as that. Doesn't matter whether you're on 12 power, 24 power, 100 yards or 75 yards. The distance doesn't matter. The power doesn't matter. A first focal plane scope will let you dial it right in on one shot if you're really good at it. So, and I've dialed scopes in on one shot. It's kind of cool. So my cameraman, Alex, good friend of mine, was just saying that when he bought a scope, some scopes, and I never did understand this, would have the scope crosshairs in milliradians, MRADs, mil dots, 1 in 1,000, but these were still in MOA. So you don't want that kind of a scope. Make sure, like any of the element scopes won't do that, okay? The Titan, even the least expensive Helix, the Titans, the Nexus, and the Theos, they all will take care of that for you. Some other brands won't. Some might be mixed, so make sure you find out that the turrets match the reticle. Good point, Alex. In fact, I'm going to tell Alex, don't even edit that out. So, we adjusted. Our pellet was down here, 3 down and 2 to the right. We came 3 up and 2 to the left. Simple as that. Okay, we're sighted back in. Okay? Now, we're in at 50 yards. And now we're out hunting. Okay? We know that we are sighted in at 50 yards. That's a good thing. Okay? We also know that when the gun is closer, our eye is 2 inches above the barrel, and no matter where this thing is sighted in, we're going to be shooting 2 inches below, just like we showed you earlier in the picture. That barrel is 2 inches below the scope. I don't care at this distance where this thing's sighted in, it's never going to be sighted in down that low. That's like an angle like that, okay? So at 0 feet, you're going to shoot 2 inches lower than what the target says or the scope says. Simple as that. I don't care where you're sighted in, you're going to be 2 inches low no matter what, okay? And as you approach 50, it'll be dead on. It's easier to think of as you're dead on at 50, and as you come back from 50 to 2 or 0 inches, you're getting closer to the scope being separated from the barrel, okay? So this narrows up at 50 and then goes back down as it gets further out. So at 50 yards, you're dead on. We'll put this one at 50. Okay? And then I'm making numbers up again. This might be 60. And this might be 70. And this might be 75. Okay? And I'm just saying, you know, as you go out further, it drops off faster. Makes it look kind of cool. Okay. Now, no math. Beautiful. We're dead on at 50. And we're saying that the first mil dot is 60 yards. Okay? Well, the wonderful thing is, let's say I get my laser rangefinder and I see a ground squirrel at 60 yards. What does it take to hit it? Well, if I stay at this 25x, I use that first reticle. If I go to any other power, I still use that first reticle. It just looks different. So let's say this scope went to 50x, just because I want to go up in power. Okay, we could go down in power too, but that would have been better if I started out at a smaller power. Okay, now we doubled it, so now we're going to have 3 would have been about there. This is double the picture. The picture is twice as big. The gopher is twice as big at 50 power than it was at 25 power, and the reticle is twice as big as it was at 50 power. So now we still choose the first mil dot, because that's going to put us right on at 60 yards. Here we need math. Here we don't. We just shoot wherever we know. That's why we make a little cheat sheet for each of these distances. You paste it on the back of your flip-up scope mount or your flip-up cap, and it's good for every power of your scope on a first focal plane. So I hope that's simple enough. You just make your little cheat sheet. That's about it. I hope that explains it. If you have any questions, put them down below. I'll be happy to answer them for you. But I think we did a fairly in-depth review of where we wanted to take this. I didn't want to go into the math of, okay, how is a milliradian actually a milliradian, and why is it pi over 3 for an MOA? Why is it 1.04, not 1 inch? We didn't need to go into that. I mean, if you want, I can, but who cares? And that's about it. So this is Joe Brancato, the Airgun Scientist, saying, hope you enjoyed the video. Take care, God bless, safe shooting, and please like and subscribe. That's really important to us. We're growing every day, and it's because of you.